I stood in my son's dining room surrounded by 30 guests when my daughter-in-law Amanda raised her wine glass and said loudly, "I doubt she can live alone for more than a year. She's nothing without this family." Everyone laughed. Phone cameras pointed at me, recording my humiliation. I watched their faces. These people I'd welcomed into my life, my home, my heart. Something inside me shifted. I smiled, set down my napkin, and said clearly, "Why wait a year? I'm leaving now." I walked out into the cool evening air, got into my car, and drove away from that house, that laughter, that life. That night, my son sent me a message that took my breath away. I sat in my small apartment that night, still wearing the navy blue dress I'd chosen so carefully for the party. My hands shook as I opened the message from my son, Thomas. Surely he would apologize. Surely he would say he was ashamed of his wife's cruelty. Surely he would tell me he loved me. The message read, "Mom, you embarrassed Amanda tonight. She was just joking around and you made a scene. Everyone is upset. You need to apologize to her for ruining our anniversary party. You're being too sensitive. At your age, you should know better than to be so dramatic." I read it 3 times. Each word felt like a physical blow. My own son, the boy I'd raised alone after his father died of a heart attack when Thomas was only 7 years old. The child I'd worked 2 jobs for, waitressing during the day and cleaning offices at night, so he could have new shoes and school supplies. The young man I'd helped through college, taking out loans I'd only finished paying off 5 years ago. The son I'd given $25,000 to help start his consulting business. The man I'd helped with the down payment on that beautiful house where I'd just been humiliated. I set my phone down and walked to my bedroom closet. In the back, behind my winter coats, sat a wooden box I hadn't opened in years. My fingers traced the carved edges as I carried it to my small kitchen table. Inside were pieces of a life I'd almost forgotten. Business cards that read Dorothy Harrison, interior design, a portfolio of photographs showing rooms I'd transformed, letters from clients thanking me for creating their dream homes, newspaper clippings from 30 years ago when I'd won a local design award. Before my husband died, I'd been building something. My own small interior design firm, just starting to take off. I'd had clients, contracts, a bright future. Then everything changed. I'd chosen to put it all away, to focus completely on Thomas. Family came first. That's what I believed. That's what I'd sacrificed everything for. I opened my laptop and checked my bank accounts. The savings account Thomas didn't know about showed a balance of $270,000. Money I'd inherited from my parents 15 years ago, carefully invested and untouched. I'd planned to give it to Thomas someday, maybe for his children's education. Now, looking at that number, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Possibility. My phone buzzed again. I picked it up and saw a group chat I'd been added to months ago, Thomas and Amanda's family. I scrolled up through old messages I'd barely paid attention to before. My stomach twisted as I read. Amanda, 3 months ago. Dorothy showed up in that old brown cardigan again. Doesn't she own anything from this century? Thomas's cousin. Maybe someone should take her shopping. LOL. Amanda, 6 weeks ago. She keeps giving us advice we didn't ask for. It's exhausting having her around. Thomas's aunt. Old people don't realize when they're being annoying. Amanda, 2 weeks ago. Sometimes I think she invented being a widow just for attention. It's been like 30 years. Move on already. I felt tears on my cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of clarity. I'd spent 3 decades putting everyone else first, making myself smaller, quieter, less significant. I'd believed that being humble and sacrificial made me valuable. Instead, it had made me invisible. I pulled out a notepad and began writing. Not an angry letter, not a defense. A plan. By 3 a.m, I had filled 6 pages with ideas, calculations, and goals. Then I picked up my phone and scrolled through my old contacts. Margaret Bailey. My former mentor, the woman who'd first taught me about design, who'd believed in my talent before anyone else. I hadn't spoken to her in 28 years. At 6 in the morning, as the sun came up over the city, I called her number. I didn't even know if it still worked. After 4 rings, a familiar voice answered. "This is Margaret." "Margaret, it's Dorothy Harrison. I don't know if you remember me, but Dorothy. Of course I remember you. My goodness, it's been forever. How are you?" "I'm ready," I said. "I'm ready to come back." There was a pause. Then Margaret laughed. A warm sound that reached through the phone and touched something deep in my chest. "Tell me everything." I did. I told her about Thomas, about Amanda, about the party. I told her about the box in my closet and the money in my bank account and the feeling that I'd been asleep for 30 years and had just woken up. "Dorothy," Margaret said when I finished, "the design world has changed so much. And you know what the biggest market is right now? Aging-in-place design. Wealthy retirees who want to modify their homes so they can stay independent without making their houses look institutional. They want elegance and accessibility. They want to age beautifully. And they're willing to pay premium prices for designers who understand both the practical needs and the emotional importance of staying in their own homes. You're 67. You are exactly the right age to understand this market." "I haven't practiced in decades," I said. "My skills are outdated." "Skills can be updated. Talent and understanding can't be taught. Let me make some calls. Come to my office tomorrow at 10. We'll start rebuilding your career." I hung up and looked around my apartment. The furniture was old but comfortable. The walls were bare except for a single photo of Thomas at his college graduation. I walked to the frame, removed it from the wall, and placed it face down in a drawer. Then I blocked Thomas's number. I blocked Amanda's number. I left the family group chat. I didn't send explanations or angry messages. I simply removed myself, cleanly and completely. For the first time in 30 years, I felt free. Margaret's office was in a renovated warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and enormous windows flooding the space with light. She looked exactly as I remembered, just older. Her silver hair was cut in a sharp bob, and she wore a black suit that spoke of success and confidence. "Dorothy," she said, embracing me. "Look at you. Still beautiful. Still carrying yourself like you're apologizing for taking up space. We're going to fix that." She led me through the office, introducing me to her team of 5 designers. They were young, talented, and they looked at Margaret with respect. This was what success looked like. This could have been my life. "Here's what I'm thinking," Margaret said once we were in her private office. "I don't want you to work for me. I want you to build your own firm again. I'll provide consulting, advice, and I'll refer clients to you until you're established. But Dorothy, you need to own this. You need to build something that's yours." "I don't know if I can," I said, and heard how small my voice sounded. "Stop," Margaret said firmly. "That woman who won design awards 30 years ago is still in there. That woman who created beautiful spaces and satisfied clients is still you. She just got buried under years of being told she didn't matter. But she does matter. She always did." I opened my old portfolio on Margaret's desk. The photographs were faded, but the work was still strong. Clean lines, thoughtful use of space, an eye for detail and comfort. Margaret studied each page carefully. "This is good work, Dorothy. Really good. With some updated training, you'll be exceptional. Now tell me honestly, how much capital do you have to invest?" $270,000. Margaret's eyebrows rose. "That's serious money. You could start with that. Take courses online to update your skills. Get new software. Rent office space. Hire an assistant. Market yourself. Build a real business. What if I fail? What if you don't?" Margaret leaned forward. "Dorothy, you've already survived the worst thing that can happen. You lost your husband young. You raised a son alone. You sacrificed your dreams. And despite all that, you're still here, still standing, still capable. The question isn't whether you can do this. The question is whether you're willing to try." I thought about Thomas's message, about Amanda's laughter, About 30 years of making myself smaller. I'm willing, I said. That afternoon, I registered my business, Graceful Living Design. I enrolled in 3 online courses: Modern Design Software, Accessibility Design Principles, and Business Management for Small Firms. I found a tiny office space, just 2 rooms, but it had good light, and it was mine. I ordered business cards, set up a website, and bought new clothes that made me feel professional instead of invisible. Margaret made good on her promise. Within a week, she called with my first potential client, a retired couple in their 70s who'd just moved to a beautiful old house that had stairs everywhere and bathrooms too small for safety. Their names are Walter and Barbara Jenkins, Margaret said. They have money, they have taste, and they're terrified of falling and breaking a hip. They want their home modified, but they don't want it to look like a nursing home. Can you meet with them Thursday? I met with them on Thursday. Walter was a retired banker, tall and distinguished with white hair and kind eyes. Barbara was a former teacher, still sharp and funny, but I could see the fear in her face when she looked at the steep staircase in their home. We love this house, Barbara said. We bought it because it reminded us of the home where we raised our children. But we're not young anymore. Last month, I slipped on these stairs. I caught myself, but it scared us both. I walked through their home, taking notes and photographs. The bones of the house were beautiful: high ceilings, hardwood floors, generous rooms. But everywhere I looked, I saw hazards: bathtubs with high sides, narrow doorways, poor lighting, thick carpets that could catch a foot. Here's what I see, I told them. I see a house that can be safe and beautiful. We'll install a chairlift on the main staircase, but we'll custom design it to match your woodwork so it looks built in, not added on. We'll renovate your master bathroom with a walk-in shower that has a bench, but we'll use the same tile and fixtures as the rest of the house so it feels cohesive. We'll widen doorways but maintain the architectural integrity. We'll improve lighting throughout but use period-appropriate fixtures. When we're done, your home will be safer and more comfortable. But guests won't notice the modifications unless you point them out. Barbara's eyes filled with tears. That's exactly what we want. We want to stay in our home, but we want to feel elegant, not elderly. You are elegant, I said. The design should reflect that. They hired me on the spot. $22,000 for a complete redesign and renovation. I left their home and sat in my car, staring at the signed contract. $22,000. I hadn't earned that kind of money in 30 years. The next client came from Walter and Barbara, a widow named Helen, who wanted her home to be both beautiful and safe after her husband's death. $18,000. Then a retired surgeon named Dr. Patrick Hughes, who'd seen my work at Helen's house. $20,000. Within 90 days, I'd earned $60,000. Within 90 days, I'd proved that I could do this. I moved to a better apartment, a 1-bedroom with actual space and natural light. I bought clothes that fit properly and made me feel confident. I got a haircut at an expensive salon, and the stylist cut my gray hair into a sleek style that framed my face. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone I barely recognized, a woman who looked professional, capable, strong. I ran into Carol Patterson at the grocery store one Saturday. Carol's son had been in Thomas's class all through elementary school. We'd been room parents together, had organized fundraisers, had drunk coffee in each other's kitchens while our sons played. "Dorothy?" Carol said, staring at me. "Is that you? You look amazing. What have you been doing?" "Working," I said simply. "I saw something online," Carol said carefully. "A video from Thomas's anniversary party. Amanda posted it. People were laughing at you. Are you okay?" I smiled. "I've never been better, actually." "Really? Because the video made it seem like things were rough." "Amanda told everyone you were struggling financially and emotionally." "Amanda doesn't know anything about my life anymore," I said. "And that's exactly how I want it." Carol looked at me with new understanding. "Good for you, Dorothy. Honestly, good for you." My phone rang constantly now. Referrals from satisfied clients, people who'd heard about my work. retirees who wanted consultations. I hired an assistant, a young designer named Grace, who'd just graduated from design school and was hungry to learn. She was 24, bright, creative, and she reminded me of myself at that age, full of dreams and energy. "Why did you hire me?" Grace asked on her first day. "I don't have experience." "Because you have talent and enthusiasm," I said. "And because someone gave me a chance once. I'm paying it forward." Grace became essential to my work. She knew all the latest software, understood current trends, and brought fresh ideas. But she also listened when I talked about the emotional side of design, about creating spaces that felt like home, not showrooms. We worked well together, and I realized I was happier than I'd been in decades. 6 months after leaving that anniversary party, my business had 7 employees and had earned over $200,000. I was featured in a regional magazine, Aging Gracefully. Local designer creates luxury accessibility. The article included photos of my work and a picture of me in my office, looking confident and professional. The article went viral locally. My website crashed from traffic. My phone rang constantly with new inquiries. And somewhere across town, Amanda saw the magazine at her salon. The morning Amanda saw the article, I was in a meeting with a potential client who wanted to renovate 3 rental properties to make them accessible for elderly tenants. It was a $50,000 contract. My phone buzzed repeatedly in my purse, but I ignored it, focused on the presentation Grace and I had prepared. "Your approach is exactly what we need," the client said. "Safe but not institutional, high quality but cost-effective. When can you start?" "We can begin preliminary designs next week," I said, and we shook hands on the deal. Walking back to my car, I finally checked my phone. 17 missed calls, 12 from numbers I didn't recognize, 5 from a number that made my stomach tighten. Amanda. There were also text messages. The first few were from friends I hadn't heard from in months, all saying the same thing. "Saw the article. Amazing. So proud of you." Then came messages from Thomas's relatives, people who'd been in that group chat, suddenly wanting to reconnect. "Dorothy, we should have lunch. I'd love to catch up. I always knew you were talented." I deleted them all without responding. Amanda's voicemails progressed from sweet to desperate. "Dorothy, hi. I saw the magazine article. So impressive. I'd love to talk to you about something." Then, "Dorothy, please call me back. It's important." Finally, "Dorothy, I know you're busy, but I really need to speak with you. It's about my mother." I didn't call back. Instead, I went to my office, where Grace was already working on designs for our new project. She looked up when I walked in, her face concerned. "Dorothy, there's someone here to see you. She didn't have an appointment, but she insisted on waiting. She's been here for an hour." In my small waiting area sat Amanda. She'd dressed carefully in an expensive navy dress and heels, her blonde hair perfectly styled, but her makeup couldn't hide the strain around her eyes or the tension in her shoulders. When she saw me, she stood quickly, her smile brittle. "Dorothy, finally. I've been trying to reach you." "I've been working," I said coolly. "Did you have an appointment?" "No, I saw the magazine article. I had no idea you were doing so well. Why didn't you tell us?" "You blocked my number," I said. "Remember, after Thomas told me to apologize to you." Amanda's face flushed. That was a misunderstanding. Thomas was upset. We both were. But that's in the past, right? We're family. "What do you want, Amanda?" She glanced at Grace, who was watching with open curiosity. "Could we talk privately?" I led Amanda to my small office and closed the door. I didn't offer her a seat. I stood behind my desk, keeping the physical barrier between us. "My mother fell," Amanda said, her voice tight. 3 weeks ago, she broke her wrist and bruised her hip badly. The doctor says she needs to make her house safer, but she doesn't want to move to assisted living. She saw your article in the magazine. She called me and asked if you were the same Dorothy. I couldn't lie to her. And she wants to hire you. She needs her house modified. Her doctor recommended it." But Dorothy, she can't know about what happened at the party. My mother would be furious with me. She already thinks I don't appreciate you enough. If she knew what I said, what I did, what you did, I repeated softly. You publicly humiliated me. You told 30 people I was nothing without your family. You recorded it and posted it online. You convinced my son that I was the problem. You spent months mocking me in group chats. You made me feel small and worthless. Amanda's eyes filled with tears, but they looked calculated, practiced. I know. I'm sorry. I was terrible. I don't know what I was thinking. But please, Dorothy. My mother will disown me if she finds out. Can't we just move past this? For family? I looked at this woman who'd made my life miserable, who'd turned my son against me, who'd laughed while people recorded my humiliation, and I felt nothing. No anger, no pain, just a cold, clear certainty about who she was and what she deserved. I'll take your mother's job, I said. My rate for a full home accessibility redesign is $45,000. Amanda's mouth fell open. 45,000? That's outrageous. Surely for family. You said I was nothing without family, I interrupted. I'm respecting your judgment by keeping business and family completely separate. $45,000 is my standard rate for premium clients. Your mother can afford it. I know because I saw the house she lives in. I can't pay that much. I was hoping for a discount. A significant discount. I tilted my head. You're not the client. Your mother is. Let me be clear, Amanda. I will do this job professionally and well, because that's who I am. But I won't give discounts to people who treated me with cruelty. If your mother wants to hire me, the rate is $45,000. If she asks why we're not close anymore, you'll need to decide whether to tell her the truth or lie. Either way, that's your problem, not mine. Amanda's fake sweetness cracked. You're really going to punish me like this? Over one comment at a party? One comment? I said quietly. Amanda, you spent years making me feel worthless. You poisoned my relationship with my son. You mocked my clothes, my age, my widowhood. You convinced Thomas that I was a burden. That wasn't one comment. That was systematic cruelty. And now you want me to pretend it never happened because it's inconvenient for you. I'll tell my mother you refuse to help her, Amanda said, her voice turning hard. Do that, I said. Or better yet, give her my business card. Let her call me directly. I have a feeling your mother and I will get along very well. Amanda stared at me, and I saw the moment she realized she had no power here, no leverage, no way to manipulate this situation to her advantage. Fine, she said finally. 30,000. And I'll do whatever you want. Whatever I want? Yes. Anything. Just please, don't tell my mother what happened. I considered this. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let Amanda face the consequences of her actions. But another part of me, the part that had raised a son alone and built a business from nothing, understood strategy. $30,000, I said. And you will gather the family who was at that anniversary party. All of them. You will admit publicly that what you said was wrong, that you deliberately hurt me, and that you're sorry. You'll do it in front of everyone who laughed. If you do that, I'll redesign your mother's house and I'll never mention the party to her. Amanda's face went pale. You want me to humiliate myself? I want you to tell the truth, I said. That's all. The truth. If the truth is humiliating, that's because your actions were shameful. Do we have a deal? Amanda stood there for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, weighing her options. Finally, she nodded. Deal. Good. Have your mother call my office to schedule a consultation. And, Amanda, the family gathering happens before I start the design work, not after. I want proof that you kept your word. After Amanda left, Grace appeared in my doorway. That was intense. Are you okay? I'm perfect, I said, and realized it was true. 2 weeks later, I received a phone call from a woman with a warm, cultured voice. Is this Dorothy Harrison? This is Patricia Montgomery. I believe you know my daughter, Amanda. Hello, Mrs. Montgomery. Yes, Amanda mentioned you needed some design work. Please, call me Patricia. And yes, I need help. I'm 73 years old, and after my recent fall, I've realized my house isn't safe anymore. But I refuse to leave it. This house holds 50 years of memories. I raised my children here. My husband died here 5 years ago. I need it to be safe, but I need it to still feel like home. Amanda said, "You're the best person for this." She spoke very highly of you. I nearly laughed at that, but kept my voice professional. I'd be happy to meet with you and discuss your needs. When would be convenient? We scheduled a consultation for the following Thursday. Patricia's house was in an old, established neighborhood. A beautiful Victorian with a wraparound porch and mature trees in the yard. Patricia herself was elegant, her white hair swept up in a neat bun, wearing slacks and a silk blouse. She reminded me of Margaret, a woman who'd aged without apology, who carried herself with dignity. She walked me through her home, and I could see immediately what needed to be done. The stairs were steep and narrow. The upstairs bathroom had an old clawfoot tub that was beautiful but dangerous. The lighting was dim, but the house itself was magnificent, full of character and warmth. "I love everything about this house," Patricia said as we sat in her kitchen over tea. "But I'm not stupid. I'm 73. My balance isn't what it was. My vision isn't perfect. If I'm going to stay here, I need help making it safe. But I don't want it to look medicinal. I don't want grab bars that scream, 'Old person lives here.' I want elegance and safety." "That's exactly what I do," I said, and showed her my portfolio on my tablet. She studied each photograph carefully, asking intelligent questions about materials, costs, and timelines. "This is beautiful work, Dorothy. Really beautiful. Now, let's talk about your rate. Amanda mentioned it might be quite high. My standard rate for a full home redesign like this is $45,000. That includes all design work, contractor coordination, and project management. For you, because Amanda asked, I can do it for $30,000. Patricia's eyebrows rose. "That's a significant discount. Why?" "Because I believe in this project," I said carefully. "And because I think we'll work well together." Amanda said you two had some kind of disagreement. She wouldn't tell me what it was about, but she was very eager for me to hire you. Almost desperate. "What's going on, Dorothy?" I looked at this woman, and I saw intelligence and directness in her eyes. She wasn't asking for gossip. She was asking because she sensed something was wrong and wanted to know if it would affect my work. "Amanda and I did have a disagreement," I said honestly. "It was personal and painful, but it won't affect my work for you. I'm a professional, and I'll treat your home with the respect and care it deserves, regardless of my history with your daughter." Patricia studied me for a long moment. "Fair enough. I appreciate your honesty. Now, when can you start?" We finalized the contract that afternoon. Patricia wrote me a deposit check for $10,000, and I promised to have preliminary designs ready in 2 weeks. As I was leaving, she walked me to the door and put her hand on my arm. "Dorothy, I don't know what my daughter did, but I know Amanda. She can be thoughtless and cruel when she feels threatened. Whatever happened, I'm sorry, and I'm grateful you're willing to help me despite it." I drove back to my office feeling lighter. Patricia was going to be a wonderful client, and her project would be a showcase piece for my portfolio. But there was still the matter of the family gathering Amanda had promised. That evening, I received a group email from Amanda. The subject line read, "Family Gathering. Important." The message was brief. "Please join us this Saturday at 2 p.m. at Riverside Park Pavilion. There's something important I need to say to everyone who attended our anniversary party. Please come. It matters." I showed the email to Grace, who'd become not just my assistant but my friend. She was the daughter I'd never had, and she understood the full story of what had happened. "Are you going to go?" Grace asked. "Yes," I said. "I need to see if she'll actually do it." Saturday arrived cold and clear. I dressed carefully in a burgundy suit that made me look professional and confident. I arrived at the park pavilion at exactly 2 p.m. 23 people were already there, including Thomas. I hadn't seen my son in almost 9 months. He'd aged. There were new lines around his eyes, and he'd lost weight. He looked tired and unhappy. When he saw me, his face went pale, and he started to stand, but Amanda grabbed his arm and whispered something to him. He sat back down. Amanda stood at the front of the gathering, and I could see she was terrified. Her hands shook as she held a piece of paper. Good. She should be nervous. Thank you all for coming, Amanda said, her voice barely steady. I asked you here because I need to say something that's long overdue. Almost 9 months ago, at our anniversary party, I said something cruel about Dorothy. I said she couldn't survive alone for more than a year. I said she was nothing without this family. Many of you laughed. Some of you recorded it. I posted it online. And I was wrong. Completely wrong. The pavilion was silent. People shifted uncomfortably. Dorothy is one of the strongest women I've ever met, Amanda continued. And I could hear she was reading from the paper, the words clearly forced. She raised Thomas alone after her husband died. She sacrificed her own career to focus on her son. She helped us financially when we needed it. And I repaid her kindness with cruelty. I made fun of her clothes, her age, her choices. I convinced Thomas that she was overbearing when she was just trying to be helpful. I was jealous of their close relationship, and I deliberately tried to damage it. I was wrong. I was cruel. And Dorothy, if you're willing to hear it, I'm deeply sorry. I sat there, watching her, and felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction because she'd kept her word and told the truth. Sadness because this apology, while public, still felt hollow. That's all I wanted to say, Amanda finished. I hope you can all understand why Dorothy hasn't been at family events. It's because I made her feel unwelcome. It's because I was a terrible daughter-in-law. And I'm trying to do better. People started talking quietly among themselves. Some looked at me with guilt, others with sympathy. Then Thomas stood up. I need to say something too, he said, and his voice cracked. Mom, I failed you. Amanda didn't do this alone. I let her manipulate me. I believed her when she said you were trying to control our lives. I took her side without even asking for yours. And when you left that party, when you needed me most, I blamed you. I told you to apologize when I should have been protecting you. I chose my wife over my mother, and I was wrong. He walked toward me, tears streaming down his face. I've been trying to call you for months. You blocked my number. I deserve that. But Mom, please. Can we talk? Please? I looked at my son, the boy I'd raised, the man who'd broken my heart. And I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, exactly, not yet. But a willingness to listen. We can talk, I said quietly. But not here. Not now. Call my office and make an appointment. We'll meet somewhere neutral. Thomas nodded, wiping his eyes. Thank you. Thank you, Mom. People started approaching me, trying to apologize, trying to explain why they'd laughed or stayed silent. I listened politely but kept my responses brief. I didn't owe them absolution. I didn't owe them anything. As I was leaving, Thomas caught up with me in the parking lot. Mom, wait. There's something else you need to know. Something important. We stood by my car, and Thomas looked around to make sure Amanda wasn't nearby. Mom, I'm in trouble. Financial trouble. And I didn't know who else to tell. I looked at my son's face, really looked at him for the first time in months. The lines around his eyes weren't just from age or stress. They were from fear. Tell me, I said. Can we go somewhere private? Maybe get coffee? We went to a small cafe 3 blocks from the park. Thomas ordered black coffee and didn't touch it. I ordered tea and waited. Finally, he started talking. Amanda has been lying to me, he said. For years. About money, about you, about everything. I found out 2 months ago and it's been destroying me. I wanted to tell you immediately, but you'd blocked me, and I knew I deserved that. I knew I had no right to ask for your help after what I did. What kind of lies? Thomas pulled out his phone and showed me bank statements, credit card bills, text messages. As I read, the picture became clear and ugly. Amanda had opened credit cards in Thomas's name without telling him. She'd been spending thousands of dollars every month on clothes, spa treatments, expensive lunches with friends. She'd racked up $38,000 in debt that Thomas knew nothing about until a collections agency called his work number. "That's not even the worst part," Thomas said. "Remember when you thought I was pulling away from you? When I stopped calling as much, stopped inviting you over? Amanda was telling me you'd said things about her. Terrible things. She'd show me text messages supposedly from you, criticizing her, calling her names. But they were fake. She'd created fake screenshots to make it look like you were trying to break us up. Why would she do that? Because you saw through her," Thomas said. "From the beginning, you were never quite comfortable around her. You were polite, you were kind, but you never fully warmed up to her. And she knew it. She knew you could see who she really was. So she worked to turn me against you before you could tell me the truth about her." I felt a cold rage building in my chest. Not at Thomas, but at the calculated cruelty of what Amanda had done. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm leaving her," Thomas said. "I've already filed for divorce, and she's fighting it. She's claiming she deserves half of everything, including my business. But more than that, she's making insane claims. She's saying she deserves credit for your success." "What?" "She's telling her lawyer that her comment at the party, the one that humiliated you, was actually tough love that motivated you to restart your career. She's claiming that without her pushing you, you never would have built your business. She's saying she deserves a portion of your earnings because she inspired you." I stared at him. "That's absurd. That's delusional." "I know, but her lawyer is running with it. They're going to subpoena you, Mom. They're going to drag you into this divorce. And there's something else. The video from the party. Amanda's planning to use it in court to show that she was trying to help you by being honest about your limitations. She's going to twist the whole thing." I sat back in my chair, processing this. Let her try. I have documentation of every client contract, every payment, every business expense. I can prove exactly when my business started, and that it had nothing to do with her inspiration, and everything to do with my own skills and capital. Any judge with sense will throw out her claims. I hope you're right. But Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I let her do this to you. I'm sorry I believed her lies. I'm sorry I chose her over you. You were right about her from the start, and I was too blind to see it. I reached across the table and took my son's hand. It was the first time I'd touched him in 9 months. "Thomas, you were manipulated by someone who's very good at manipulation. That doesn't excuse what you did, but I understand it better now, and I'm glad you're getting away from her." "I don't know how I'm going to afford the divorce," he said. "Between the debt she created and the legal fees, I'm drowning. I'm probably going to lose the house. I've been trying to keep the business afloat, but it's hard when I'm spending all my time dealing with lawyers and debt collectors. I know I have no right to ask, but I'm going to anyway. Is there any chance you'd consider hiring me?" "Not for charity. I'll work hard. I have business management experience. I could help you with project management, client relations, billing, whatever you need." I looked at my son, broken and humble and genuinely remorseful. A year ago, he'd told me to apologize for being humiliated. Now he was asking for a job. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I'll think about it," I said. "But Thomas, if I hire you, it's a real job with real expectations. You'd be working for me. You'd have to take direction from me. You'd have to accept that I'm the boss. Can you do that?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "Absolutely. Mom, I just want a chance to prove to you that I'm not the man I was a year ago. I want to earn back your trust." "Trust takes time," I said. "But I'm willing to give you the chance to try." We talked for another hour. Thomas told me everything. About Amanda's spending, her lies, her manipulation. About how she'd isolated him from friends who questioned her behavior. About how she'd convinced him that everyone was jealous of their happiness when really, people were concerned. About how he'd lost himself trying to make her happy. I failed you, Mom, he said again. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it right. I drove home that evening feeling exhausted, but also strangely hopeful. My son was coming back to me. Not the old Thomas, but someone new. Someone who'd learned hard lessons and was trying to grow from them. The divorce proceedings started 2 weeks later. Amanda's lawyer filed a motion claiming Amanda deserved compensation from my business. The local news picked up the story because of how bizarre the claims were. Woman claims she built ex-mother-in-law's business through insults. It became a minor sensation. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Christine Palmer, was not impressed with Amanda's strategy. "This is the weakest case I've seen in 20 years, Christine said. She has no ownership stake in your business, no financial investment, no participation in its creation or operation. The fact that she insulted you at a party, and you subsequently started a business, doesn't create legal liability or ownership. Any first-year law student could win this case." The hearing was set for 3 months later. In the meantime, I hired Thomas. He started as a project coordinator, managing timelines, communicating with contractors, handling billing and client communications. He was good at it. He worked 12-hour days, never complained, and slowly started rebuilding my trust. Grace was skeptical at first. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "After everything he did?" "He's my son," I said. "And people deserve second chances when they genuinely want to change. I'm watching him carefully. But so far, he's proving himself." Amanda's case fell apart before it even reached a full hearing. Her own family testified against her. Patricia, her mother, gave a deposition stating that Amanda had always been manipulative and that she'd been appalled by the anniversary party incident. Thomas provided evidence of Amanda's debts and lies, and my business records proved conclusively that I'd built the company with my own capital and skills. The judge dismissed Amanda's claims with prejudice, meaning she couldn't refile them. In the divorce, Thomas got to keep his business, and Amanda got nothing but her personal possessions. Her family disowned her after learning the full extent of her lies. Her friends abandoned her after the court proceedings made her manipulation public. I felt no triumph in her downfall, just relief that it was over. 1 year after walking out of that anniversary party, Graceful Living Design had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We now had 12 employees, 6 designers, 3 project managers including Thomas, 2 administrative assistants, and Grace, who'd become my partner in the firm. Our revenue had exceeded $800,000. We'd completed 73 projects in 5 states, and I'd been invited to speak at the National Design Conference in Denver. The conference was a big deal. 3,000 designers from across the country, workshops, exhibitions, networking. The keynote speakers were usually famous architects or designers with international reputations. I was speaking on a panel about aging in place design, but just being invited was an honor. Thomas drove me to the airport. He'd moved into a small apartment after selling the house. Simple, but comfortable. He'd paid off all of Amanda's debts by selling everything they'd owned and taking a second job on weekends doing consulting work. He was rebuilding his life piece by piece. "I'm proud of you, Mom," he said as we stood at the departure gate. "Not just for the business, for everything. For walking away when you needed to, for building something amazing, for giving me another chance even when I didn't deserve it." "You've earned it," I said. "You've worked hard this year. You've been honest and humble and dedicated. That's the son I raised." At the conference, I was nervous. The convention center was huge, and everywhere I looked, I saw talented designers whose work I admired. But when I walked into the conference hall for my panel, I saw something unexpected. The room was packed. Every seat was taken, and people were standing along the walls. The moderator introduced me, and I heard my story. Dorothy Harrison left a 30-year career hiatus to build Graceful Living Design, now one of the fastest-growing aging in place design firms in the country. Her approach combines luxury and accessibility in ways that respect both the practical needs and the dignity of older adults. I spoke for 45 minutes about my design philosophy, my business model, and my journey. When I finished, the room erupted in applause. During the question and answer session, hands shot up everywhere. How did you find the courage to start over at 67? What advice do you have for designers who want to specialize in this market? How do you balance aesthetics with accessibility? I answered each question honestly, and afterward, at least 50 people waited to talk to me. Designers who wanted mentorship, business owners who wanted partnerships, potential clients from across the country. One woman, probably in her early 50s, waited until everyone else had left. Miss Harrison, I need to tell you something. 6 months ago, I was stuck in a job I hated. I was convinced I was too old to change careers. Then I saw a video online. It was from a party, and someone was mocking you. I saw you stand up and walk away, and something clicked for me. I quit my job the next day. I started the business I'd been dreaming about for 20 years. I'm here at this conference because of you, because you showed me it's never too late. I hugged this stranger, and we both cried. This was why the business mattered. Not for revenge, not to prove anyone wrong, but because in building my own life, I'd given other women permission to build theirs. The video from the party, the one that was supposed to humiliate me, had become something else entirely. Women across the country had seen it and seen themselves. Diminished, dismissed, told they were nothing. And they'd seen me walk away with dignity. The video had millions of views now, but the comments weren't mocking me. They were supporting me. This woman is my hero. I wish I had her courage. The way she just stood up and left. That's power. They laughed at her, and she built an empire. That's the best revenge. I returned from Denver, energized and full of new ideas. We expanded into 2 more states. We hired 4 more employees. We developed a training program to teach other designers our approach to aging in place design. Patricia Montgomery's house was featured in Architectural Digest with a full photo spread. The phone never stopped ringing. But the best moment came on a Tuesday afternoon in late October. Thomas came into my office with a nervous smile. "Mom, I want to introduce you to someone, if you have time." A woman stood in the waiting room, probably in her early 40s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. She wore casual clothes and no makeup, and she looked genuinely nervous. "Mom, this is Rachel." "Rachel, this is my mother, Dorothy." We shook hands, and I felt immediately that this woman was different from Amanda. There was no calculation in her eyes, no performance, just genuine nervousness about meeting her boyfriend's mother. "It's wonderful to meet you, Miss Harrison. Thomas talks about you constantly, about your business, your strength, your generosity in giving him another chance. He's told me everything about what happened with Amanda, and I just want you to know that I think what you've accomplished is remarkable." "Thank you, Rachel. And please, call me Dorothy. Would you like to join us for lunch?" Over lunch, I learned that Rachel was a social worker who worked with elderly clients. She and Thomas had met at a community center where she was helping seniors navigate social services, and he was there volunteering on weekends as part of his effort to rebuild his life. She was divorced with 2 teenage children. She was thoughtful, funny, and she looked at Thomas like he was someone worth caring about. More importantly, she didn't defer to him or fawn over him. When he said something she disagreed with, she said so. When he made a joke, she laughed genuinely. This was a partnership of equals, not a performance. "I like her," I told Thomas after Rachel left. "Very much." "She likes you too," Thomas said. "And Mom, I promise you, I'm never making the same mistake twice. Rachel is real. She's honest. She challenges me. She makes me want to be better. That's what love should be." 2 years after that anniversary party, I stood in my new house, a beautiful craftsman-style home with a modern kitchen and a studio where I could work on designs at home. The backyard had a garden I'd planted myself, and every room reflected my taste, my choices, my life. I was hosting a celebration, not a big party, just 30 people, my employees, my closest clients who'd become friends, Margaret, Patricia, Thomas, and Rachel. Grace gave a toast to Dorothy, who taught me that talent without courage is wasted. and that it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. Everyone raised their glasses. I looked around at these faces, these people who genuinely cared about me, who respected me, who saw my value. This was family, not because of blood or obligation, but because of mutual respect and genuine affection. Thomas stood and asked for everyone's attention. "I want to say something, if that's okay. Mom, 2 years ago I was the worst son imaginable. I let my wife turn me against you. I believed lies. I chose cruelty over love. And when you walked away from that party, I thought you were being dramatic. I thought you'd come back apologizing within a week. But you didn't. You left. And you built this incredible life. And in doing that, you taught me the most important lesson I've ever learned. That love without respect is worthless. And that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from people who don't value you. You didn't just save yourself. You saved me too. Thank you." I hugged my son, and for the first time in 2 years, it felt completely right. The invitation to speak at the National Women's Empowerment Conference came 6 months later. It was in Chicago, a huge event with 10,000 attendees. They wanted me to give the closing keynote speech. Me, Dorothy Harrison. A woman who 2.5 years ago had been told she was nothing without her family. I spent weeks preparing the speech, writing and rewriting, trying to capture everything I'd learned. Grace helped me practice. Thomas listened and gave feedback. Rachel, who'd become a true friend, reminded me to speak from the heart. The day of the speech, I stood backstage listening to the MC introduce me. "Our closing speaker is Dorothy Harrison, founder and CEO of Graceful Living Design. But more than that, she's a woman who became a viral symbol of resilience after a video of her walking away from public humiliation inspired millions. She's here to share her story and the lessons she learned about starting over, finding strength, and building a life worth living." I walked onto the stage, and 10,000 women stood and applauded. I stood at the podium, looking out at this sea of faces, and felt a peace I'd never experienced before. 2.5 years ago, I began. My daughter-in-law told a room full of people that I was nothing without my family. She said she doubted I could survive alone for a year. Everyone laughed. People recorded it on their phones. And in that moment, standing in my son's dining room, I had a choice. I could laugh along, pretend it didn't hurt, shrink myself even smaller to avoid conflict. Or I could stand up and walk away. I told them the whole story. The walk to my car, the message from Thomas, the wooden box with my old portfolio, the savings account, the late-night call to Margaret, the first client, the growth of the business, the divorce, the reconciliation with my son. I held nothing back. I learned that betrayal can be a gift in disguise, I said. When someone shows you they don't value you, believe them the first time, and use that clarity to build something they cannot touch or diminish. Amanda's cruelty didn't weaken me. It woke me up. It forced me to remember who I was before I made myself small to fit into other people's expectations. I also learned that success is not the best revenge. Peace is. For months, people expected me to be angry, to want to humiliate Amanda the way she'd humiliated me. But revenge would have tied me to her, kept me focused on the past instead of the future. Building my empire wasn't about proving Amanda wrong. It was about proving to myself that I was never nothing to begin with. I had simply forgotten who I was. The greatest power we have is the power to walk away from people who diminish us and walk toward the life we deserve. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in clarity and self-respect. When you walk away from toxicity, you're not giving up. You're refusing to accept less than you deserve. And finally, I learned that it's never too late. At 67 years old, I built something bigger than I ever imagined. Not because I was young and fearless, but because I was older and finally knew my worth. My age wasn't a limitation. It was an advantage. I had decades of experience, skills I'd developed over a lifetime, and most importantly, I had nothing left to lose. When you've already survived the worst, you become fearless in pursuing the best. To every woman in this room who feels invisible, who's been told she's too old, too tired, too broken to start over, you're not. The woman who raised children, who survived loss, who sacrificed her dreams for others, that woman is still capable of remarkable things. Your past doesn't limit your future. Your age doesn't diminish your value. Your scars don't make you weak. They make you strong enough to build something beautiful. So if you're in a situation that diminishes you, whether it's a relationship, a job, or a family dynamic, I want you to ask yourself, what would my life look like if I had the courage to walk away? What could I build if I stopped making myself small? What dreams did I bury that are still alive, just waiting for me to remember them? The day I walked out of that party, I thought I was losing everything. Instead, I was finding myself. And that's what I wish for each of you. Not revenge on the people who hurt you, not vindication or recognition from those who doubted you, but the courage to walk toward your own life, to build something that reflects your value, and to finally know your own worth. The room erupted. Women stood, applauded, cried. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Afterward, hundreds of women waited to talk to me, to share their own stories, to thank me for giving them hope. The speech was recorded and posted online. Within a week, it had 20 million views. Within a month, I received over 50,000 emails from women around the world. I started a mentorship program, partnering with Grace to help women over 50 restart careers in design and other fields. We called it Never Too Late. 3 years after leaving that party, I stood in my living room looking at photographs chronicling my journey. My company now operated in 12 states with 40 employees. Thomas was thriving, engaged to Rachel, happy in a way I'd never seen during his marriage to Amanda. Grace had become a sought-after designer in her own right while remaining my partner and friend. Patricia Montgomery had become like a mother to me, someone who understood the journey I'd taken. My phone rang. A potential client calling about a major project in Seattle. I answered professionally, discussing timelines and budgets, and as I spoke, I caught my reflection in the window. I saw a woman who looked confident, capable, at peace. A woman who knew her worth. After I hung up, I sat down at my desk and opened my journal. I'd started keeping it after the business took off, documenting not just projects and clients, but thoughts and lessons. On a fresh page, I wrote, I was never nothing without that family. I was everything, just waiting to remember. The greatest gift Amanda ever gave me was showing me exactly who she was, because it forced me to remember exactly who I am. And who I am is enough, more than enough. I am a creator, a builder, a woman of value and strength. I always was. I just needed to believe it. I closed the journal and looked out at my garden, where spring flowers were beginning to bloom. 3 years ago, I'd walked out of a room full of laughter and mockery. Today, I was living a life those people couldn't imagine. Not because I was seeking revenge, but because I was finally, fully myself. And that was the real victory. Not the business, not the money, not the recognition. The victory was in knowing, deep in my bones, that I had always been enough. I just needed the courage to act like it. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where someone made you feel small or worthless? Maybe it was family, maybe a partner, maybe a boss or friend. And if so, what did you do? Did you stay and accept it? Or did you find the courage to walk towards something better? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story touched your heart or gave you hope, please consider liking this video. It helps more people find these stories of resilience and transformation. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. We share stories of real women facing real challenges and finding real strength. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that might inspire you when you need it most. Finally, if you know someone who needs to hear this story, someone who's been made to feel invisible or worthless, someone who's wondering if it's too late to start over, Please share this video with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we're stronger than we think, that it's never too late, and that walking away from toxicity isn't giving up. It's choosing yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. And remember, you are not nothing. You never were. You're everything, just waiting to remember. May you find the courage to walk toward the life you deserve. And may you always, always know your worth.